Hi guys, it's Clarice and welcome to another Procreate video tutorial with me. If you are new to my channel, I typically do watercolor videos on a weekly basis, and Procreate is just something I do on the side. So I just put out tiny little doodle videos of fun things like this. Today we are going to be doing these cute little pumpkins. Now I'm just going to show you guys how I did this using a palette that I have kind of set up. So be sure to check out the download link to this palette in the description below, and then you can kind of follow along with me. And so yes, we're going to be creating this, and I would love it if you guys would feel free and make these into other multicolored pumpkins like pinks or grays or the light greens, and just have fun with this style. So let's get started and I'll show you exactly how I do this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to give this a background. I already have the background ready to go. So if you just click on your background color, you should be able to immediately pick the background that you want. And we're picking the fourth color right there, which is what this is set to. All right, so now once this is set up, we're going to go back into our layers, and I'm going to create, well, I already kind of have them set up in a layer already, or in a group setting already, because I've just duplicated what I've previously done before, and we're going to redo that all over again. So I am literally going to delete and then recreate what I have done in these layers over here, just so you guys can follow along. So I'm just going to clear this layer, clear this layer. So I'm going to pretty much clear all the layers, and then we're going to begin. So clear, clear, clear. And then I'll leave the hello fall in there so we can refer to that later on. So the first thing we're doing is we're just going to draw the outline of the pumpkin. And for that, what I used was I used my drawing guide. Now, if you guys have been following my videos, we have already been through the amazingness of the drawing guide. But if you haven't, we're just going to walk through it very quickly. So you click on your tool section at the top, you click on drawing guide, so make sure that it is blue, and then you click on edit drawing. You make sure that you're selected on symmetry, and you can adjust the thickness of your line and change the color. I'll make the color, let's make it like a nice dark blue so you can actually see that in there. So anything I draw here will be reflected on the opposite end. And so to actually draw the outline, we're selecting the darkest orange. And this is what happens if you've never used that before. I gotta make sure that I am on this layer and it is visible. And we are selecting, I believe it is under inking, and it's called syrup. Okay, so this is what happens when you, why is this not working? Give me a second. Oh, I know why. Because we have the alpha lock on, so I've taken that off. So if you do this while the drawing guide is on to symmetry, this is what happens. That's really cool, right? All right, so I'm going to clear this and we're going to draw the outline of our pumpkin. Now, the first thing I want to do is start from, so I'm going to start from the top, and I'm just doing a straight-ish line. And then we're doing the curve all the way down. Now, once you reach down, we'll do a couple of bumps, and those are what the ridges of the pumpkin will kind of connect to from the top. So just be ready for that. So I'm doing one bump, two bumps. That's a little bit too deep there, so I'm just going to take this a little bit higher and leave it at that. Perfect. So now once I have this, I'm just going to go ahead and create one ridge. I just want to also make sure that these areas are properly set up there, no protruding little lines. So one ridge is here, I'll do another one over on this end. And now we got our full pumpkin. Now we're just going to do the background of this, and I just want to perfect this area here, so make it a little bit rounded as opposed to like a widow's peak pointed. And so the background, we're just going to do something like this, so it gives us that little ridge in the back. And you know what, I'm not very pleased with how this part is turned out, so I'm going to bring this a little bit lower, but making sure that my eraser tool is set to something exactly like what my drawing tool is at. So is it calligraphy? No. I still have a hard time finding where these little brushes are. Let's just take water pen for now. And I'm just going to delete this area. And we'll just redraw that in a little bit. So just going back in. That's the thing about drawing it back in, like sometimes you don't get it exactly on point. But do something like that. No, I'm going to delete this bit too. See, this is where this tool comes really handy. So I'm not redoing this on both ends. There we go. That's perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to leave that as is. And you can just zoom in and kind of clear up these little areas if you want to. And then zoom back out. Perfect. So now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to fill in, the background for this. And for that, what I've pretty much done is, that would be this file right here. So I'm just going to delete that. So I'm going to duplicate this that we have just drawn in. I'm going to name it background. Sure, why not? And then I'm just going to turn off assisted drawing. Where is that? On this layer. And then we are selecting the correct orange. And so for this orange, we're going to select this second orange right here, making sure we're selected. I'm clicking this and dragging into my little ridges. And we're done painting that in. So now on to the next step. And so for the next step, we're going to create little shading bits inside. Old brush is also under painting and it's right there at the bottom. So we're selecting old brush and we're going and starting to do our little shading bits inside. And we're just kind of lightly adding these strokes in to each groove in the direction of the illustration or outline. And it's almost like little shading lines, right? And we want to make sure that it is staying within and it's not showing outside these lines, okay? So keep that in mind. And we're just kind of doing that here. If anything comes outward, just take your eraser and then you can always erase that along. So not a big deal if that does happen for you. And I'm just going to zoom into this area here in the back and I'm just bringing some of the shading in, leaving some space just in case. And then we are going to go ahead and get the lighter color. And the lighter color is right here under palettes. And then we're doing pretty much the same thing and you can just overlap it on top of what we've already done. So same layer, we're using the same brush, old brush, just using the lighter color and zooming in to kind of create that same effect that I've mentioned, just to get some good shading happening and give it that artsy look and feel. And you can see I'm just kind of pulling it down. Whoops. Zooming out so you can see that. And depending on the pressure that you add to your pen, you are able to get a lighter more darker opaque color onto this. So just play around with that and see what you like. So we're almost done all the shading. And once we're finished this, then we kind of move on to adding, I think, you know what, this is probably going to need some darker shading happening over here just so we can add more lights and darks. So I might go over this with another layer. Maybe just take that dark color and just add it in. And again, once I am pleased with it, we're going to move on to the next step. So I'll just add it here and there. You can even use white. I know white can be very stark looking at times, but it can also be very pretty to add that light and shadow. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this as is, and then we're now going to create that absolute center. Okay, so now we're getting ready to do the top bit of the pumpkin, and so for that I've created another layer. I've just named it top, and we're selecting the second second last darkest brown that we have, and we are going back to inking. Sorry, not, is it inking? Yes, inking and syrup. So the same thing that we use for the outline, and the stub or creating the top for this is fairly simple. I just want to make sure this is again behind the outline here. And so we're just going to do something, yeah, just make sure that it's set to show. And obviously I need to bring it to the front because now we have that. Although a way around that could just be, I could leave this in the background and just kind of go on that layer, take this tool, the eraser tool, and just kind of erase it out. And this serves us just fine. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's see what else is left. I think the next thing that we can do is, I just want to add a little bit more of this old brush strokes onto this this layer right here. So I feel like it's not as nice as I would like it to be. So I'm just adding both of those so it looks cohesive with the rest. All right, that's good enough. Yep, so now that we've done that, we can kind of move on to doing one last bit, actually no, second last bit. So we're going to go to the layer where we have the outline, and I'm clicking on that for all these options that show up, and then I'm clicking on Alpha Lock. And now we're going to go onto the turpentine layer, make sure we can see it, selecting the third orange right there, the one, I think we used that for the shading, and I'm going to go ahead and select, is it painting? Yeah, painting, and then select, wait, is it turpentine? I just want to make sure before yes, you can try turpentine, or you can try damp brush, anything with a texture really, because what I want to do is go ahead and get that nice little texture happening within these lines, so it really adds something nice. So let's try turpentine first, see how that works out. Whoops, no, that's not how it should be working out. We're supposed to be on syrup and doing turpentine, so we don't need that turpentine layer. So turpentine is not it. Let's try damp brush. That should possibly give us a nice texture. Okay, I think the damp brush is too big because it kind of went all over. I'm going to go a little bit lower And we definitely need to go darker with this color. So let's go with that second last darker color. And see, because we have the, we still have that assisted drawing guide on here, even though it's not showing up, it is there for this layer. So anything that I do here is also reflected here. So again, like another great way to kind of speed up our process and really get stuff done faster. I just want to get this to be slightly, because I use the darker shade inside, it's kind of making me go ahead and add slight darkness to some of these colors. So here, I just made that slightly darker, and I'm just adding this texture onto my little layered lines. And again, I just want it to be textured with some of that color peeking through. I don't really want it to be all over. And that's perfect. Like, I love how that looks. All right, so now that we've gotten all this stuff done, one thing that we need to do is add in some shadow at the bottom. And so what I've done is I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm just going to make sure that it is behind this guy here. And let's just name it, okay, it's a little bit outside. Let's just name it shadow, background, shadow, maybe. Shadow. And once I have that, I am going to select the darkest color, which is right there. And then we're gonna, actually before the darkest, second darkest color, and you'll see why. And then we're going into spray paints and selecting medium nozzle. And once we have that, we're on the right layer. We're gonna make sure it's a good enough size, and we're just gonna give it a little bit of a shadow, just like that. See how this is working out? And I'm just kind of concentrating within this area so that we get a couple of freckles up there, and then we get a lot happening down here. And then I'm going to go into the darker tone, slightly lower the size, and then add it more towards the bottom here and towards the side a little bit, and just towards this edge to kind of create that shadow. And then now once this is done, we're going to our eraser tool. And again, we are going to select spray paints, medium nozzle, and I'm going to just kind of go ahead and add a couple of lines here so we can shape this shadow a little bit more to our liking. And there we go, we are pretty much done. I kind of like having some of the little faded freckles in the background of this, so I might not necessarily take it off from the top or much around that area, mainly more from the bottom. But I love how this looks, and it's got a nice soft little feel, right? So now what you can also do is you can, this is why I've kind of grouped them together, because now I can just swipe left and go duplicate, and then make this smaller, and then flip it horizontally, pull it downward, and then just kind of using that green little dot there, turn it sideways a little bit and just give it a little bit of a tilt. You can even make it smaller if you wish. And the one thing I would suggest is, because in my previous example to you guys, I didn't have them grouped up quite like this. I had the shadows lying outside, so I'm just gonna take those away so you can see what this one looked like. So this one was just flat with just the pumpkins, and then I had the bottom kind of showing up like that. So really, I'll leave that up to you guys if you want it within. I think it kind of looks better this way, but that's just me. So taking those off, the bottom two, and there we go. So that's what that looks like. Oh, and one last thing, absolutely forgot. We need to have this guy on, and then we are done. So here we go. I just had this kind of like this. Perfect. And so this is the full tutorial, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. I hope this was easy to follow. I kind of just, what did I use for this? I think I used, I believe I used the turpentine or old brush to kind of just write this in. And then I just went with the darker shade and went over it. And you get the fall, right? Like it's falling. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the whole tutorial. Go ahead, try this with other colors. Let's get some nice dainty little pumpkins happening, and let's just see how that looks. And in the meantime, even try some white if you want in the shading. In the meantime, I think one more thing that I wanted to just add very quickly, I'm just going to select that turpentine, yeah, turpentine layer I think should work. And we'll just move it in between at the top. Because I've just noticed that it would be nice to kind of have a little bit of shadow between the two pumpkins and make it look a little more realistic. So I'm going back to the spray and I'm just going to quickly add that in here lightly. Yes, the layer needs to be showing for that to happen, right? Okay, so here we go. So now that I've added this in to the pumpkin, it really kind of makes it pop. So yep, that's it. So hope you guys like this. If you end up doing a third one here, make sure you do that same little shadowy effect over here, and then we've got a nice little fall card. So thanks guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Send me your work on Instagram, tag me, and if you like videos like this, if you like watercolor videos, please do subscribe to my channel and get notified every time I put something out, which is every week, guys. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Bye.